Welcome back to the Hospitality Break Room. Today, I want to talk about what I believe may be one of the biggest missed opportunities in luxury travel: the relationship between travel planners and professionally managed vacation rental companies. Here is what I find fascinating: 84% of affluent travelers say that working with a trusted travel advisor is more valuable than spending hours researching a trip online. At the same time, the luxury vacation rental market is projected to grow from approximately 28.5 billion with a B in 2025 to nearly 64 billion by 2034. Travel planners have relationships with exactly the kind of guests luxury vacation rental companies want to reach. Vacation rental companies have the private homes, local knowledge, space, privacy, and personalization those clients increasingly want. So, why do these two still feel like separate industries? Theoretically, this should be the perfect partnership. But in reality, travel planners often find vacation rentals difficult to evaluate, difficult to book, and sometimes even difficult to trust. And vacation rental companies often say they want to work with travel planners without truly understanding what those planners need from us. Today, I want to look at the numbers, talk honestly about what is getting in the way, and explore what it would take for us to serve the same luxury guests together. Welcome to the Hospitality Break Room, the podcast where we talk about the real conversation shaping the vacation rental industry. This season, we're diving into a topic that's becoming more important than ever: the relationship between vacation rentals and travel planners. For years, hotels have built strong partnerships with travel advisors and planners, while many vacation rental operators have struggled to understand how to work within that ecosystem. But that's changing. Today's travelers are looking for more personalized experiences, more space, and more curated stays. Travel planners are increasingly helping clients discover professionally managed vacation rentals as part of that experience. Throughout this season, we'll talk with travel planners, industry leaders, and hospitality professionals to better understand how these partnerships work, where the opportunities are, and what our industry can do to build stronger relationships with the advisor community. Whether you're a property manager, host, hospitality brand, or travel advisor, this season is designed to help bridge the gap between vacation rentals and the world of travel planning. Thanks for joining us in the break room. Let's get into today's episode. Hi, and welcome back to the Hospitality Break Room. Today's title of our episode is The Same Luxury Guest, Two Separate Industries. And we are going to continue the conversation we've been having this season about discussing the concept of travel planners and how the vacation rental industry can work with travel planners, and how travel planners can, work to coordinate with vacation rental companies to help provide great options for lodging for this sort of upscale, more luxury guest that's out in the market. And, obviously we know with the K-shaped economy that travelers that are at the upper echelon of the spend, like the more luxury travelers, that group of people is increasing, and the amount of money that they have to spend on travel is also increasing. So, as a company in the luxury lodging industry, and I think for any company in the lodging industry, whether it's hotels or vacation rentals, when you're looking at selling more luxury price point stuff, we're in kind of a good spot, right? Like, this is an area of the economy that's growing, and those people, that customer base, they are now looking and planning with their travel with travel planners more than they ever have before. And so today's episode is going to talk about, as we have been so far in this season, talking about the travel planner concepts and how we can work with them as vacation rental companies. But also, I'm going to go into some specific stats today and just give a little bit more like numerical context around the trends that are happening and how it affects us. And so, like I said, as we know, luxury travel is growing, and that the demand for private accommodations is also growing. Affluent travelers are increasingly turning to their travel planners. And I think a lot of us know that travel planners were kind of a big thing, like maybe more 80s, 90s. And then for a while, it just became so much less popular. And now there's been an influx, right? It's growing again. And so, one of the first statistics that I have that I wanted to discuss is that 84% of affluent travelers surveyed said that a trusted travel advisor is more valuable than spending time researching online. So 84% of travelers, and this is stating like affluent travelers. And so I don't have in front of me like how they're defining affluent travelers, but let's just say like on the top tier of people, and the sort of the group that spends probably the highest or higher nightly rates. 84% of them in a recent survey said that they're going to use a travel advisor more of the time than they would like if they were looking for research for travel and they were going to look online. They're leaning towards travel planners 84% of the time. And that came from the 2025 Luxury Travel Report by Preferred Hotels and Resorts and the Harris Poll. And they surveyed more than 500 affluent American travelers. Okay, so again, I don't know how they're defining affluent American travelers for the sake of this survey, but I think this is like a really interesting point. 84%, that's way higher than what I would have thought that it was. And I think it's way higher than most people out in the general public and even within the travel industry realize. I think the shift from, a really small percentage of people using travel planners to the fact that right now it's 84%. Again, like this is looking at a specific segment and not all travelers, but still, I think that's a really interesting concept because luxury travelers are not necessarily looking to eliminate humans from their travel planning, which is kind of, I think, something that we might assume if we kind of fall into all of the AI discussion. But these people, they are actually looking for trusted humans who can simplify their decisions and reduce their risk. And so, obviously, we all know we're experiencing a shift from this trend where everybody would be doing their search online on Google or whatever search engine, and they'd be looking for their travel options. And we were really relying heavily on SEO and on like what was going to come next from Google and the travel tools that they were building. And then so quickly now the pendulum has shifted. Everyone's talking about AI. But if you look at the actual research and not the gossip, not the mythology of, the zeitgeist online, to say that 84% of affluent travelers are looking to a travel planner, like to me, that's a mind-blowing statistic. And knowing that means that for all of us in the vacation rental industry, and of course, specifically those of us that are offering properties with a nightly rate, over $500 a night, there's no way that we should be ignoring the fact that travel planners are out there and they're making a huge impact. So another statistic that I came across was that demand for luxury travel advisors is increasing, right? So I kind of just covered that with that 84%, but also this says Virtuoso reported a 76% increase in consumers seeking travel advisors through their virtuoso.com. So 76% increase in consumers seeking travel advisors through that virtuoso.com platform. Like, again, these are huge numbers. And they also said 65% of Virtuoso clients said an additional layer of protection was the primary reason they used an advisor. So that goes ahead of perks, ahead of VIP access. These people are using travel planners. 65% of their clients said the reason for that is that security. I think that again is super interesting, especially when you're a vacation rental company, because a lot of the time I think we assume that guests will book a hotel if they're concerned about knowing that they can trust the vacation rental options that are out there. We talk a lot about travelers booking through OTAs because of trust. Maybe they feel more trust with like Airbnb than they do with a random vacation rental company's website. And that is only bolstered with this data, right? 65% of the Virtuoso clients that were surveyed said the reason that they are using travel planners at this point is that they're doing it because of the protection, the advisor being able to offer expert advice, like to vouch for the lodging that they're booking for that person and also standing behind it, right? Like that a travel planner would say, I'll book this for you. And if you have an issue, just let me know and I'll help. Like I can reach out to the hotel or to the vacation rental company and help you, solve any issue. And I think, these are really strong numbers, right? Like this is no kind of 50-50. The first stat was in the 80s. And then here, this Virtuoso sees a 76% increase in consumers seeking travel through advisors. And then 65% of those people that are picking that are doing it because of security. I think these points are really, really important. It's like the planner's value is not simply that they're getting a bottle of champagne placed in the room when they arrive, which they may be getting. And I think that's a wonderful addition. But like the real value of the travel planner is the trust, the protection, the judgment, and having someone to call when something goes wrong. And I know I've personally experienced this. I've talked about this before, but like when we did a recent trip, not that recent, I guess, it was a year ago that we went and took our kids to Italy and France for like a 3-week trip. And we booked through a Fora travel planner who I had on the show, Vanessa. And part of that for me was exactly the same reason that these numbers are showing. just knowing that Vanessa had a knowledge, like a firsthand knowledge of these lodging options that she was booking. And for us on that trip, it was hotel, not vacation rental, but I knew that she had been to these locations herself with her own family. I knew that she had contacts at those locations. And so again, if there was an issue when we arrived, or if there was some, situation where they didn't have, maybe we booked 3 rooms and they only had 2 or whatever it was, that I knew I would not only be able to advocate for myself, but she would be able to advocate for me and my family as well. And I think it's one thing to have the anecdotal sort of like personal experience, but it's quite another to layer on with that actual statistics from large companies like Virtuoso or, Travel Age West and that kind of stuff, Harris poll. Okay, another statistic that I found was that the luxury vacation rental market is expanding rapidly. And to prove that point, the global luxury vacation rental market was estimated at 28.5 billion in 2025. So again, 2025, 28.5 billion with a B. That was the amount of the global luxury vacation rental market, right? Estimation. It is projected to reach 63.7 billion by 2034. Okay, 2034 seems like a little bit far off to me, but when you think about it, that's 8 years away. And that's a massive difference. Like that's far more than double from 28.5 to 63.7. That's insane to think about. So we've talked about the K-shaped economy a lot, but really like here's the numbers on it. If you look at it, it's representing an annual growth of approximately 9.3%. So from 28.5 billion in 2025 going to 63.7 billion in 2034, that would be annual growth of 9.3%. Like that is crazy. And I think as a company, Abode, the company that I own with my husband Rob, our vacation rental company, in the years from when we started in 2008 until about like 2022, we had between 8 and 20% growth every year, which I think was insane. And people were constantly commenting to me that like, oh, that was some really crazy, amazing growth. And here, what this is showing is that the growth in the number of dollars in the vacation rental market is growing by 9.3%, or it's projected to grow at 9.3% between now and 2034. I think that blows my mind, especially when I think about the fact that the Olympics are coming to Park City, Utah, and that's going to affect our tourism. And like, obviously, these numbers right here, these are coming from global market insights. They're not taking into account, I'm sure, the Olympics. That's like a one-off thing happening in a little place called Park City and not over, the whole world, not in the global luxury vacation rental market. I don't think that would have like a blip effect. But when I think about this 9.3 projected growth annually, and then I factor in the fact that the Olympics are coming, like this is crazy to me. So this is no longer like a niche accommodation category, right? Like vacation rentals, I think a lot of us in the industry, we know this is not some sort of like little, I don't know, like side hustle, like it might have been considered in the past. Vacation rentals are becoming a major part of luxury travel, and the professional infrastructure surrounding their distribution has not caught up. And that's just a fact, right? And I think in some ways, the distribution in the vacation rental industry is maturing when you look at software options like Guesty, where they have all these like automatic integrations that you can link directly into the different distribution channels. Like that's a huge upside for us in our industry that makes everything so much easier. But we still have a lot of room to grow because as we're talking about this entire season, we really have no way to directly link our inventory, the details of that inventory, contractual relationship obligations and restrictions, and prearranged commission structure, all of that. We have no vehicle currently, no tool, at least not one that's like widely, used and out there with like a ton of representation yet. There's no way for us to really get in front of these travel planners in a consistent way with good parameters and boundaries, right? And good contracts in place, not similar to like how the hotels do it. And so I think that's really hindering us up until this point. And I feel like hopefully we are approaching like the precipice of reaching that, like, I don't know, that critical mass, right? Or getting to that point where there is enough business on the table that it will get enough attention that the right people will be able to step forward and work together to help us create those tools and set up those boundaries and contracts and like a foundation so that we can start to distribute to travel planners in a more consistent, organized way. Okay, another stat that I have, it says in Flywire's 2025 survey of more than 500 ultra luxury travelers, 80% said they planned to spend more on travel, and nearly half of those spending at least 25,000 per trip plan to spend substantially more. So from the Flywire 2025 ultra luxury travel report, 80% of 500 travelers they surveyed 500 luxury travelers, 80% of those said they were going to spend more on travel than they had previously. So I think obviously this goes along with this concept of the K-shaped economy and like the fact that we understand the people at the top of the economy at the moment, like the more wealthy people in the country or in the world, they are becoming more wealthy and they are looking to travel more and spend more on travel than they have done previously. And I think, again, anecdotally, like at conferences, this is the kind of stuff we talk about in a way where we're sort of like making generalizations and assumptions. But here is an actual survey of 500 people that proves that to be true. The point is that the guests in both industries, they're still traveling and spending. The challenge is not creating demand because obviously the demand is there. Like we don't need to go out and find ways to get more people that want to travel more. Like that is clearly happening and there's proof. But our challenge is that we need to build partnerships capable of capturing and serving that demand. So again, it's like the luxury traveler, the amount of luxury travelers is growing. The amount of money that those luxury travelers are going to spend on travel, that is growing. The amount of luxury travelers that are going to book their travel through travel planners, that's growing too. And the only issue here is that vacation rental companies don't have a way to grow our visibility to those travel planners because that is becoming more and more of the channel through which these luxury travelers will find the places that they're going to book. It's going to be through more and more often, it's going to be through a travel planner. But currently, there's not more and more effort being taken to make it possible for vacation rental companies to get in front of travel planners in an organized, boundaried, contracted way. And I think that that's like a really interesting point. Okay, so luxury travel is increasingly multi-generational. I think we know this, and I also think a lot of us have experience. If you're in the vacation rental industry, and if you're booking homes that are like more than 4 bedrooms, and especially if you're booking like higher dollar vacation rentals, a lot of times they're going to be the bigger houses. And then if you do that, those groups tend to be most often that multi-generational family, like what we would call a legacy family vacation at abode. That means like you have the grandparents, maybe like 2 or 3 adult children. Some of those adult children are married, have their own kids. And so you've got grandparents, adult children, and then the kids of those adult children. And so you get a larger group, which is why they're looking for a house with more bedrooms. And when you think about that, like that can be another amazing target market that are going to be more likely to book through a travel planner, right? Because they're going to have a more complex travel situation where they have, like theoretically some different groups within their family. They're going to have to coordinate all that. And they're going to, if they have the money to book something nice and big, of course, they're going to be like following the standard situation where a lot of times it's really the value of their time that's even more important to them than the value of those dollars that they're spending, in which case they're really looking to save time. They're going to use a travel planner. And so there's another stat here that says Virtuoso found that 64% of global luxury travelers now travel with multiple generations. And that's from the Virtuoso Global Luxury Traveler Report. So multi-generational groups are one of the clearest reasons that luxury travelers choose to book private homes. This I know personally, like I have definitely seen this in my business all of these years. So often that we have these multi-generational families that we literally have like an avatar group, like a group within our company that we train our team on. And it is the most frequently booked avatar that we have. Like the most common group that books properties that we manage is what we call a legacy family vacation, meaning a multi-generational family group. And so these are obviously one of the clearest reasons that luxury travelers choose to book private homes. They want shared living areas, kitchens, privacy, multiple bedrooms, and the opportunity to spend meaningful time together. These trips are also complicated enough that, again, a travel planner can add enormous value. And so to me, through these statistics, like through the conversations we've had so far this season on the Hospitality Break Room, and that we will continue to have in the upcoming episodes this season, there's like all arrows pointing to you know, an increase in people booking with travel planners, an increase in the likelihood that a traveler would come across the concept of a travel planner as they're investigating booking a trip, the increase in the likelihood that they might like actually pull the trigger for the first time and book their trip through a travel planner, and the increase in the likelihood that if they've done this before, they would do it again for all these reasons we've talked about so far and a bunch more reasons they'll bring up. So, another stat that I have here is regarding safety and security being central to luxury travel. So, Virtuoso's research found that 75% of travelers consider safety and security highly important when planning travel. And that's compared to 62% of luxury travelers more broadly. So again, 75% of travelers consider safety and security highly important when they travel. And that's again from Virtuoso 2025 research presentation. And I think this is just like, this to me feels like another stack in a bunch of reasons that seem really obvious. But once you kind of put the numbers in front of you, to me, it makes it like impossible to ignore what we're seeing. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring up these stats on the podcast on this episode is just that I feel like I don't want to be the only person like shouting into the void who is seeing all of this happening around me and like noticing it. And I'm definitely not the only person, right? Like I know that Mayman Group, near Mayman and his team, they're working on LPMS, which is a tool that will hopefully connect vacation rental companies and provide some level of what we're talking about to connect vacation rental companies with the travel planners to create a pathway, for that distribution. And I think to me, that's a step in the right direction. So obviously, I'm not the only one thinking this, but I do feel like this could go a lot faster. I really do think that creating a distribution pathway, creating templated contracts and arrangements that could be standardized between vacation rental companies and travel planner companies. This is not like insanely difficult. This is nothing compared to the crap that we all deal with working in travel on any side. We deal with really hard, crazy problem solving every single day. And the kind of stuff we're talking about is so solvable. And when you look at these statistics, it's a little bit maddening to think that we haven't found a better way forward yet. And I'm hoping that if I can talk about this stuff and post about it, and if anyone's interested and if other people, start engaging in the conversation, that maybe we can take a leap forward and get closer to where we need to be. So that's why I think sharing these statistics can be really important. So a travel planner cannot confidently recommend a private home based only on an attractive listing photo, right? They need to know who manages it, whether the home's been professionally inspected, who answers the phone when the guest has an issue, and what will happen if there's a problem at 10 p.m. And I think if you're in vacation rentals, these are the kind of things that you have to understand, set up a process for, create standards and systems within your team so that you are predicting these kind of issues coming up and you have a way for it to be handled within a certain process over and over again with your team, right? But because again, these travel planner companies don't have these boundaries and contracts set up, they don't know that they can really trust that the vacation rental companies will all have all of this coverage and systemization and processes in place unless we have all this stuff that I keep harping on regarding like contracts and more clarity. So I think safety and security, we all know that, our friend Justin, I call him Safety Justin, who works with Breezeway, we all know like this is the kind of thing that he's talking about all the time. He puts a lot of focus and priority on, but it's not just him, right? Like this is saying 75% of travelers consider safety and security highly important when they're planning travel, enough so that this is like this is contributing to the fact that there's such an increase in how many travelers book through a travel planner. And it's like, I don't know how any of us could ignore something like 75%. Like that's a big number. And that alone just related to the concept of safety and security. It's something that we could be solving so easily. Now, look, I do think actually solving for safety and security within your properties, this is like as a separate discussion and very important, probably more important. And I don't think that that should be minimized. Like the details around how do you commit to maintaining properties in a safe way so that the guests can feel safe and secure when they travel, that they're not going to be exposed to unnecessary dangers. Like this is all very important. And that all of those details, I think, are not so part and parcel, like not so tied to this conversation today, not specifically, but I do think that those pieces are really important. And obviously, those details within how you run your company are so important to our potential guests that like in a survey 75% of them are saying like that's a reason why they would book with a travel planner is because they're concerned and they want like reassurance that where they're going to stay is going to be safe and secure. Okay, so luxury travelers still want human expertise. Okay, this I know. I feel like every time people bring up AI at a conference or like on a webinar within the industry, everybody wants to talk about using AI in travel and in lodging as a way to communicate with the guest. And I have always felt like this is not where I want to see AI used. I want to see AI used on the back end, on ways to link my consumer data, to mine that data, ways to help my team create better processes and standards and SOPs, but like not really so much with communicating with the guest. And this is an interesting Flywire report. So, one Flywire luxury traveler survey found that 96% of respondents had used a travel advisor or expected to use one within the following 18 months. 96% of respondents have used an advisor or are going to use one in the next 18 months. Like, I do not think that this was anywhere near being the same height within even like the last 18 months or 2 years. That number has been increasing. That's almost 100%. Like, that's insane. So, the point is that AI will change how trips are researched and administered. We know that, like, we see that coming. But expensive, complicated, emotionally important travel still benefits from human judgment and accountability. And I feel like this is just like, for me, this is so, so true on like a base foundational level. And I know that like with my consumer base, with abode luxury rentals, my customer wants what I always refer to as a lot of hand holding and butt wiping. But they want like human interaction, right? They want to meet someone who lives in Sun Valley or Jackson Hole or Park City, and they want to have this trip where they sort of forge a connection with some local person working here at Abode, and that they now leave and they feel like they've got a guy or they've got a gal in Jackson or whatever it is, and they have this like connection to that place. And I think like that is a very important component of luxury travel and of like the positive experience that creates good reviews and repeat customers. And so to me, I think this is really interesting that, okay, like we can sort of acknowledge that AI is coming into our industry, but we can also acknowledge that such a high percentage, 96% of people responding for this Flywire luxury traveler survey, they're saying that they have already used a travel planner or they're about to use one. To me, like that stat alone, if that doesn't like catch in your throat and make you think to yourself, what the heck? What more is it going to take for us to have a better process to present and maintain our available inventory to the travel planner community? Like 96%. All right. Another stat I have here: advisors already control significant travel distribution. I think we're clearly making that abundantly clear at the moment. But let's see. I have this ASTA reports that travel advisors account for approximately 59% of cruise bookings, 75% of tour packages, and 40% of air travel. So like not even looking at like the standard lodging like hotel or vacation rentals, and looking at cruise bookings, 59%, 75% of tour packages, and 40% of air travel. And that is that they travel planners are slash travel advisors already account for those numbers. And it also reports that 50% of travelers say they are more likely to use an advisor now than in the past. So, okay, from Flywire, it's 96% of people said they've already done it. They've already worked with a travel planner or they're about to. And then talking to ASTA, it's 50% of travelers say they are more likely to use an advisor now than they used to be. So it's like we're already getting close to 100% of people having already booked with a travel planner or planning to do it. And then there's 50% overall that are like, okay, yeah, if I haven't done it yet, I am more likely than I used to be doing that. So travel advisors already influence enormous purchasing decisions, and the vacation rental industry is asking how to find more qualified guests while largely overlooking this massive distribution channel that is growing really quickly around trusted relationships with the exact guests that we're looking to book. I feel like this episode is literally like some sort of political stump for me at this moment, but putting these stats in front of me and like just reading them here to you guys is like somewhat inflaming, like just somewhat like igniting a fire of like how passionate I feel about the fact that like, wow, we need to do some work. It's not like some giant unending pile of work that we need to sort through. It's nothing like that feels impossible. It's the more I talk about it, the more I look up stats, the more I have conversations on this topic, like I can see that the path forward is just really clear. Like I can see the way we need to go. And now I feel like I need to help other people understand how like really possible this is so that we can actually take those steps together because I don't see this as something that I can do on my own. I think this, us creating a distribution model that allows for us to present the available inventory of properties in a consistent way and to allow for contracted relationships between vacation rental companies and travel planners that allow for like commissions and for protections on customer relationships and stuff. This is just like not, it's just not that hard. And it's not like some 20, 30, 40% of the business that we're looking to access. Like these numbers are over 50%. And so it's like, how much longer can we wait? I don't know. All right. So there's a few points that I wanted to make sure I covered. And I feel like I've already covered the meat of this topic. And usually I go on for like over an hour, but I feel like I'm going to be done with this episode pretty quick. But I'm okay with that. If anyone listens to this and you guys take away even a couple of these stats and it helps you to have conversations with other people in our industry and with travel planners, and if all of that leads to us finding a better way forward, I'm going to take it as a win. So, look, here's the point. Both of our industries, travel planners and vacation rentals, we are pursuing the same guest, right? Travel planners want beautiful, private, highly personalized accommodations for their guests. Luxury vacation rental companies want qualified guests who value service and are willing to pay for it. This alignment is totally obvious, and the process of working together is still way more difficult than it needs to be. So, we don't need to invent a new customer. Like we have the same customer. We need to become better partners in serving that customer that we already share. I feel like I'm just finding a million different ways to say that one same thing. But again, I don't think we need to invent a new customer here. Like, especially when you're looking at luxury, our customer base is growing and the people that are in that customer base are spending more than they used to. So the customer, we get it and we're sharing it with the travel planners. But we need to become better partners with the travel planners in serving that customer that we both already share. All right. So a private home solves many of today's luxury traveler needs. If you're in vacation rentals as a business, it's like this is what you do. You manage homes, you take care of homes, you market those homes, you take care of the guests. Like this stuff already, but just to, I don't know, tie it up with a bow. That luxury traveler increasingly wants privacy, space, personalization, multi-generational travel, longer stays, kitchens and shared living spaces, local experiences, the ability to be together without always being in public, right? We know this, but I think it's always important to remember that. And a professionally managed private home can deliver all of this stuff, right? This is what we have as an industry in vacation rentals that the travel planner guest, which is essentially our guest as well. This is what they're looking for. So the travel planners are taking a reputational risk, right? When a planner is recommending a vacation rental property, that recommendation is going to reflect on them. It could potentially bolster or hinder their relationship with that guest that they have. And so if the home is not represented accurately, like in pictures, if it's not clean, if it lacks responsive local service, if the client does not have a good experience and they're not just like blaming the property manager for an issue, they're going to also blame the planner. So vacation rental companies have to understand that the planners are not being overly demanding when they ask all these different questions that they ask us currently without that process in place that we need. They're protecting a relationship that may have taken them years to build. And I think in the vacation rental industry, we do understand this, right? Because we do the same thing. It can take us years, like at least weeks or months, but sometimes years to build relationships, not only with our homeowners that are part of our portfolio, but also with our repeat guests that may come back like 3, 4, 5, 6 times. These are long-term relationships. They take a ton of effort and a ton of consistency to build. And it's the same thing with a travel planner. They might have, been building something with a client for years, and they're rightfully concerned if they don't have parameters and contracts and easy ways to understand inventory. Of course, they're going to be concerned that if they book their long-term client, this guest, in a vacation rental property in a way that doesn't allow for the security and the safety, that they could potentially lose that relationship, right? And so I can understand why that would be a big risk and why they would, often be concerned about putting their guests in vacation rentals versus putting them in hotels where they have all those parameters, boundaries, and contracts in place, right? So vacation rental companies have to understand that the planners are not being overly demanding when they ask all these questions, right? Like this is part of it, and we get why that's happening. Okay, so beautiful homes are not enough, right? A high nightly rate, great design, professional photography, automatically this does not create luxury hospitality experience. Like on the surface, that sounds like luxury, but there's so much more in the functionality of like the actual stay. And the planners are going to also need confidence not only in like good pictures and like a beautiful website, but they need confidence in consistent property standards, accurate descriptions, professional housekeeping, local guest support, maintenance responsiveness, pre-arrival planning, concierge capabilities. Like I think that's a huge one, especially with luxury. Service recovery. We all know I love the service recovery paradox, but are there ways that we can prove to these travel planners that we understand the concept of service recovery so that they'll feel more comfortable that even if an issue comes up with their client while they're staying at one of the properties that we manage, that we'll be able to handle that issue and potentially even make that guest feel happier about their overall experience once all is said and done, right? It's not just the beautiful homes. We need, really clear cancellation terms. We need really good financial and payment security. And that this connects beautifully, right, to this broader argument that the industry needs clear tiers and standards. And I think most people know that I'm very hot to trot on talking about standards within the vacation rental industry, tiers, like similar to the chain scale in the hotel industry. And, us as an industry in vacation rentals, like developing this maturity where we can have those standards and tiers. And I think that ties really interestingly into this concept related to travel planners and the way that we need to have more clarity for travel planners to understand our industry in general and to trust the different tiers and standards within it. Also, like our commissions have got to stop being mysterious. Travel planners need to know whether a property is commissionable, what the commission percentage is, whether the commission's built into the rate or it's added to it, when it will be paid, who's responsible for paying it. Is the guest? Is the property management company paying the commission? Are taxes and fees commissionable? What happens if the if the date rates or the reservation changes? Like these things happen. We know that if you're in vacation rentals or if you're a travel planner, you know that these trips can be way more fluid than you might anticipate if you're a newbie in the industry. And so these parameters that I keep talking about, these boundaries, this contracted relationship, like that's why all of these points are so important to clarify within those contracted relationships, right? So if we say that we want the travel planner business, we want them to book with us as vacation rental companies, but the planner has to spend like 6 emails to understand whether and how they will be paid and like commission and understanding, the cancellation policies. This is all really important. And if we're not actually planner friendly by clarifying all those points, like we're not going to get anywhere. So we have to protect that planner's relationship with the guest. Vacation rental companies may naturally want to convert every guest into a future direct booking customer. We talk about this a lot, especially with OTAs. Like, how do you convert an OTA guest into being a direct booking guest? But if we're going to be good partners to the travel planner industry, then we have to have those contracted relationships so that the travel planners will know that if they book their guest with us one time, we're not going to try and have that guest book directly with us next time, that we're going to honor the relationship that came to us through the travel planner. And we're going to allow that guest to book with us in the future, again, through the travel planner, and that we can see the benefit in that relationship that they have with their travel planner and how it affects our business. Because again, if so many more people are booking with this increasing number of travel planners that are out there and an increasing number of people that book through them, I don't think we need to fight this, right? Like we don't need to push for direct booking and pulling it away from the travel planners. What if instead we just find a really good way to work with them and allow their small business to grow alongside our small business? So I think aggressively marketing to a travel planner's client would destroy the partnership, right? And then being able to maintain those boundaries and that, we would want to clarify, right? Like who owns the relationship, how the future inquiries would be handled, whether the planner will remain attached to the guest profile, what marketing the guest would receive, if any, from us, and how the repeat bookings would be attributed. Like, this stuff is not impossible. It's happening already with other distribution channels. And I see no reason why this cannot happen when it comes to the travel planners, because the goal should be to create a long-term partnership, not to capture just like one reservation and boot out the travel planner. There's so much of a bigger picture here that I think we could do better with. Planners need one responsive human contact, right? Like, the travel planner should not have to navigate a generic inbox, wait for, days and days for answers, speak to someone unfamiliar with that home who has no idea what's going on. If you're a luxury vacation rental company, you should be providing dedicated planner, contact, or team, right? Like, there's people on your team who understand how to work with travel planners. They understand these nuances. And those are the people that should be, having that fast response time, clear property recommendations, honest guidance about which home suits which client. We know this is the kind of stuff we're all really good at. And you want to make sure that you have the right person assigned to handle those conversations with travel planners so that it goes well. And I know I always talk about service recovery, but this is one of the things in my notes. I think we know in the vacation rental industry that homes are more complicated than hotels, right? Like, there's just a million different homes out there. And so when you manage 20 homes or 50 homes or 200 homes or 2,000 homes, there's so much variation between these properties, and things will occasionally go wrong, right? And then the question is, like, what happens next? And it's this service recovery paradox. I think this is a really interesting concept just in general, right? It's in the book that I wrote, Please Do Disturb, that's coming out in November. But it is a really interesting concept to think about when we're talking about dealing with travel planners, and like as a way to help those travel planners understand that we do really get on a deeper level customer service, and that we're not out here like hoping for the impossible perfect scenario, that we're totally prepared for things to go wrong, and that can actually take the situations when things go wrong and turn it into a really happy guest that leaves amazing reviews. And I think we know this too, but like, technology needs to be supporting us in what we're doing. So the right technology could be giving travel planners, obviously live or reliably updated availability. Again, like a distribution method that could work between the vacation rental company and the travel planner to give a really good full accounting of the inventory in a consistent way, and make it update constantly, right? Commissionable pricing, downloadable property details, whether that's like white label sort of PDF so that you're not having to link to your listing in case there's not price parity, or whether that's some other sort of like automatically pulled format of property information. And we know like how important professional photos, floor plans, really clear explanation about fees and cancellation information. I think this is a huge point of contention with travel planners, and something that could be so easily outlined and detailed. The concept of saving those client preferences, and, understanding when they are going to have repeat bookings with you, that you're going to be able to handle their concierge needs in like a preemptive, sort of predictive way. I think this is something that would make travel planners feel really good about putting their guests booking with a vacation rental company, if we were able to achieve sort of that saved client preference concept, and, being able to communicate really quickly and clearly with all the parties involved regarding like reservation status updates and easy commission tracking. Obviously, technology cannot replace a relationship when the trip is important or something has gone wrong, but I do think the technology component, like, it's important. And to me, it's not black or white. It's not like no AI communication to my guest, and then that means like no to technology. It's like, no, maybe I'm not so into AI being my guest services communicator, but maybe I am totally interested in how AI can help me understand my guest preferences and track that on an ongoing basis, right? Because really, trust is the real product here. The travel planner is selling trust to the client, and the vacation rental company is asking the planner to extend some of that trust to the homes that they represent and their team. And that's probably the strongest closing idea, right, for this entire episode, is that the most important thing being transferred between a travel planner and a vacation rental company is not a reservation, it's trust. And I think all of the components that we just went through outline that. So here's what I think. If you made it through this whole rambling episode and you didn't like run screaming from how fast I talk and how direct I sound, then I think that you should go online and start a conversation, if not with me, with someone else, because clearly there is massive growth in travel planners being involved in travel overall, and therefore in vacation rentals as an industry. And we're not stopping that train. Like it's already left the station. It's going really fast. And I think the longer we all sit on our hands and hope that things will work out, the more business we're losing every day, every week, every month. And all that really needs to happen is that we need to work together as an industry, the vacation rental industry. And also, I think travel planners as an industry need to work together with the vacation rental industry to figure out what are these methods, these processes that we can put in place in order to fine tune distribution, to create a better pathway for distribution, and to create systematization for like those contractual relationships that can happen, just like what happens between travel planners and hotels. And I think honestly, this would turn on a huge faucet of leads in the vacation rental industry, like a lot of growth for revenue, and like exactly at the right time, right? When the higher price point travel lodging options are more and more in demand. The people that are looking to book those, there's more people and they're looking to book more than they ever had before. They are coming more than ever before through the travel planner. So like now or never, we got to figure this out. All right. If you made it this far and your brain has not exploded from me talking so fast, then cheers. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Hospitality Break Room. And I hope to see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Hospitality Break Room. This season, we're exploring how the vacation rental industry and travel planners can work better together. And we're just getting started. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And if you found this conversation valuable, share it with someone in hospitality or travel. We'll see you next time in the break room.